Good to be with you tonight on the program. I hope you're being strengthened and blessed in the Lord. We're going to look tonight at some of the things that's going on in our nation that, well, tells us pretty much where we are. And more important than that, it tells us where we're going. Because something that is moving in a particular direction, if it is not stopped, if it is not made to turn around, then it'll finally finish its course and get where it's going. One of the simplest means of discernment that there is in the world is to see which direction a car is going and know that if the car stays going in that same direction, you know what the next town is it's going to hit. Well, that's where we are today. The Bible warned us that a time of judgment would come, that foreigners would possess your land in your presence. It's an act of judgment. Now, we just saw this past week, we just saw Venezuelan gangs here in America, Venezuelan gangs that was flown in on aircraft by our government, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, flew them in free of charge. Just stop right there. Ask yourself, if you are a Democrat, ask yourself why in God's name, what logic, what common sense is there in flying gang members free of charge into your own country by the hundreds of thousands? This is exactly what has been done. Now, last week we saw armed Venezuelan gangs that our government flew in free of charge, taking over apartment complexes, beating the locks off the doors, standing there with AK-15s and pistols and guns. I watched an interview with the mayor of the city, and he very calmly was telling the news people and telling all of us that was watching him on television that they were investigating the matter. Okay, you have film footage. You have cameras on location. You have gang members beating locks off of doors. Gang members standing there with guns, pistols, and what amounts basically is a machine gun. What is there to investigate? What need is there to investigate? You got armed robbers robbing a bank? I thought that we always, the moment that we knew that was going on, we immediately sent armed police officers by the dozen to take it out, take it down. I thought that's what you do. It's only common sense. American citizens that lives in these buildings, literally being attacked, run out of their homes, while Venezuelan gangs takes the housing complex over that was flown in by our own government. Nobody is that stupid. So there has to be a reason, there has to be a motive, there has to be something that those that's in charge, those that's flying gang members in, there has to be a reason, a motive for those who are in charge, like mayors, who says, well, we'll investigate a matter that we're watching live time on camera of gang members with guns breaking in people's houses. Now, it clearly tells you that there's another motive. It tells you that the chaos is wanted. It tells you there is nothing else that it can tell you. It tells you that it is by design. The same way as we talked about the universe. All of this stuff, the stars being exactly where they need to be, everything in its proper orbit, never colliding, never hitting each other, the planets that's moving around the sun and the sun that's moving around and the moon up and down, everything in a perfect orbit, and it never changes. It says that's not accident. When you got this many things operating in such a perfect manner, it means it's design. It's like the Trump shooting. when you've got every single person involved in the Secret Service, every single one of them, on the same day, messing up at the same time, not hearing, not seeing, not knowing, across the board. That's not chaos. That is design. It simply does not happen that way. When you see gang members being flown in by our own government, turned loose in our streets with guns, and then them attacking people in their own houses and literally taking over the apartments that those people lives in, and you have footage, you have them on film, and the best that a mayor of that city can do is say, we're going to investigate it. There is nothing to investigate. You see it already happening. You see it in process. You see it right now taking place. Nobody in the world would not send the law immediately to take those people out. So you see, what I'm simply telling you is that this chaos is by design. So those of you who may be on the other side, those of you who may be Democrat, I'm asking you, how far do you think this chaos is going to go? Chaos? I'm sorry. How far do you think that this designed chaos, how far do you think it's going to go? Where do you think it's going to stop? It was these same people in 2020 who allowed businesses of every race to be burned down in their cities. They would not send the law. They made the law stand down. They would not send the National Guards, while entire cities was on fire and burning, and police precincts being burned to the ground, white-owned businesses, black-owned businesses, all being burned to the ground. And these Democrat leaders, governors, and mayors told the police, do nothing about it. So how far does this organized chaos go? Well, it is quite obvious, brothers and sisters. They don't care who it hits. They don't care who it hurts. That is including you, if you are a Democrat that is willing to vote for this mess. It's really clear. It's simple. It's so simple now that it's really embarrassing to even bring it up or mention it. Am I talking to a people that is this insane? Am I talking to a people that are this dumb? Am I talking to a people who really, honest to God, can't see? Yes, there are some. But there's others of you that's been raised in church your whole life. Come to find out, you've been raised in churches where the preachers that was preaching to you now is standing behind these murderers, these thugs, this government operation. So that in and of itself should tell you what spirit you have been under, lo, these many years. Now, nobody can confuse this with God. Nobody can confuse this with divine order. Nobody can confuse this with peace. And none of it is coming from these radical Republicans, these weird Republicans. None of it's coming from them. Every single bit of it is coming from what calls itself a Democrat. How far do you think this is going to go? You're seeing the tip of the iceberg now. It must be stopped, and we're not even going to be able to stop it now without there being massive, massive amounts of bloodshed and trouble. We've flown too many of them in, turned too many of them loose. It brings us to mind of a vision that George Washington had and that I've shared with you. I'll keep it short and make it short. George Washington had a vision. An angelic-like being came to his tent door. And upon this angelic being's forehead was the word ablaze, the Union. Now, in Washington's vision, he saw three things. He saw the Revolutionary War and described it in detail. Not much to marvel at about that, because George Washington was involved in that Revolutionary War that freed us and brought us to this land to set up a land of freedom. George Washington saw the Revolutionary War and said that this was the first peril to fall upon the Union, the United States, and that the people would rise up and save the Union, and the Union would survive. And it did. This angelic being then told Mr. Washington and showed him in vision form of what he called the second great peril that would fall upon the Union, the United States. He then went into graphic details, into the cities, into the houses. He went into graphic detail describing what came to be the Civil War, which was long after him, or a while after him. But he described it in perfect detail, absolute perfect detail. The second peril, the Civil War, where brothers would be fighting against brothers, that we would be killing our own in a war that divided us. And it was a great peril. Then Mr. Washington, after seeing the end of that second great peril, of which he said once again a light shone from heaven, the people rose up, came together, and saved their Union, saved the United States. It had been saved from a Revolutionary War, spared, because this nation was God and is God's work. It was saved from a civil war, probably the most violent war in history. It was saved from a civil war. And the Union, he said, would survive. Then the angelic being took him in vision form to what he called then the third and the greatest peril to fall upon the Union, the United States. And he saw black clouds moving across the Atlantic Ocean. He saw hordes of people coming in from all parts of the world. He saw the cities burned with fire. He saw the women ravaged and raped. He saw murder and bloodshed, such as had never been known in the Union. And he said this was the third and the greatest peril that would fall upon the United States of America. Invading hordes of people from all over the earth coming into this land like dark clouds. And he said the people, Americans, the people of this land, the people were well nigh overcome, Mr. Washington said. And when they were at their weakest state and point of defeat, he said a bright light shone through the clouds of the heaven, and it energized the people, and the people rose up and took their nation. And at the end of that horrible period of time, he said the Union prevailed. Well, vision number one was perfectly correct, the Revolutionary War. Vision number two was perfectly described, the Civil War. The third and the greatest peril to fall on this country, described in graphic detail. No one right now can say that the elements of destruction that George Washington saw in that third vision is not here in our midst right now. More than 10 million, upwards of 15 million. Within that 15 million, there are criminals that has been let go, freely boarded upon airplanes. and brought into this country at the expense of the taxpayer and this corrupt government that you have now, who means absolutely no good for nobody but themselves. They're power-mad beasts from hell is what they are. And you see it in their works, or can you not see it? How much clearer could it possibly get? It's not Republicans, these people that call themselves Republicans. And I got as much to say about a coward Republican as I do a demonic Democrat. But it's not these people that's called Republicans that's flying these criminals into our country. It's not these people called Republicans that's holding back the military, the National Guard, or the police departments, while these gangs of thugs and murderers burn cities to the ground. It's these people called Democrats that urges it on and then won't stop it. What is there that you cannot see? I'm not interested in sitting here and preaching to the choir. I'm trying to get other people to wake up. What is there that you cannot see? This is organized chaos. It's organized destruction. If any of you has been raised in church, and I know there's many of you that has, think about Raphael Warnes, this pastor from Atlanta, who's now a congressman or a senator now in the Democratic Party, who lockstep is in every move that's being made, and him, a God-called pastor, wanting to murder babies even after they're born, opening our gates, flying in these foreigners from penitentiaries and jails from what they come out of, defending the transsexualism, the homosexualizing of our children in grammar school. This pastor from Atlanta. Well, if any of you that ever sit in his church in Atlanta, Georgia is watching, then my brothers and sisters, it's not a matter of my opinion. Now you know what spirit you was actually sitting under. It's no wonder that so many of their heads are foggy, are absolutely corrupted by demonic powers. These visions that George Washington had were real and perfectly described. And the Bible warns us in times of judgment that this is exactly what happens. That foreigners shall possess your gates, your cities, in your presence. It's the way it works, and it is the way that it is working. How did the book, so many thousands of years ago, tell us exactly what mankind does and would be doing this particular date and time? You can read it in the book. Then you can turn the news on every day and every night, and you can see it happening. And then finally, we have an election coming up that these people that call themselves Democrats are running full-blown communist. Nothing good comes from that for nobody, I promise you. As I shared with you last week, Kamala Harris's daddy was a teacher of Marxism, a communist teacher at Stanford University. That's who Kamala Harris's daddy is. And Kamala Harris is a full-blown communist. But not only that, this vice president running with her, Tim Waltz, he also is a communist, hooked hand in glove with China. I have played for you the video that I will play again tonight of during COVID, Mr. Waltz sending his military police down the streets, in common city streets, and firing guns at citizens for standing on their front porch, hitting them with paintballs from those guns, which is very painful. What you have now is you have perverts, communist perverts, is who is running for office. Will you vote for them? I can understand the deranged worm-brained demons that's out there, that was raised in houses of which God's name was never even mentioned. But I'm talking to people right now who have sit in churches your whole life. These are perverts. They are baby killers. They want to kill them. It's not, well, there's a situation that has arisen that we got to make a choice between the baby's life or the mother's. No, it's not something that's as logical as that. No, we just want to kill them. Slaughter them and butcher them. 8 months into a pregnancy or even after they're already born. Where in God's name does that fit in the book? The book you claim that you believe. You know who killed and slaughtered babies? A man named Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. Threw babies in the Nile River. Was that godly? You know who else killed babies? A wicked king named Herod. Butchered almost 140,000 babies trying to kill the baby Jesus. One would only ask themselves while reading the Bible, what kind of a brute beast? Below the beast nature, what kind of a bona fide demon would take hundreds of thousands of babies born and throw them in a Nile River? Or take 140,000 of them, Herod, and behead them just because you didn't want them around. This Tim Waltz, Kamala Harris, the communist. Tim Waltz did this. These people are standing on their street, in their houses, on their own front porch. When he sends his army down the road with tanks, and they start screaming at these people, get in your house right now. And then you hear one of them say, light them up. And they start shooting these people. It's what he did in 2020. It's what he'll do again to the whole nation. These are brute beasts. Not only did he do this.
Oh, there's more. Look at this. They just keep coming.
Oh! Go inside! Get inside! Get inside! Get inside! Get in your house now! Let's go! Light him up! Go inside now! Get in the house!
Get in!
Oh, God, that hurt.
But Mr. Tim, they call him Grandpa, he ordered in the schools in Minnesota where he's governor that in the 1st through the 6th grade, tampons had to be put in the boys' bathroom. You got some logic behind that? This is why they call him Tampon Tim. He sends armies down the street firing at citizens for standing on their front porch, when at the same time, during COVID, he allowed strip joints to remain open. But mom and pop stores couldn't stay open. And a woman who tried to keep her establishment open, he put her in jail for 3 months. While putting tampons in children's bathrooms in the public school system, to sending brute beasts armed with guns to shoot citizens for standing on their porch, but yet leave everybody alone that was in the strip joints. What part of this is it that you can't understand? What's happened to your brain? I'm talking to those of you who has had church in your life. And you are voting for these ridiculous demons from the very pits of hell. Not only will they answer for it, but you will too. For not only they who do these things are worthy of death, God said, but those who have pleasure in them that do it. You better think about that.
I'll meet him with a smile, for he healed my wounded spirit.